Welcome to eCommerce Insights, trends, tips, and lessons learned, sponsored by Atmosol, a leading e-commerce technology company based in Chandler, Arizona, and Dallas, Texas. Each month, we talk to e-commerce entrepreneurs, vendors, and experts who share their expertise, experiences, and thoughts about navigating the ever-changing world of e-commerce. Ready to get started? So are we. Join host Ram Mohan and co-host Honey Olson with today's guests.
Hello, and thank you for joining us today. I'd like to welcome our guests, Tony and Sunny, and we're going to have an awesome conversation. But first, we're going to start off by you guys giving us a little bit of background about yourselves and your companies, and really briefly what you're going to talk about today. So, Tony, we'll go ahead and start with you.
Oh, sure. Of course. Absolutely. Everybody, my name is Tony Capitolo, and I'm a Senior Programs Manager and Omnichannel Growth Manager at Feedonomics. Feedonomics is a leading product syndication and channel management platform for e-commerce businesses. And we essentially help support merchants who would like to list their products on today's leading advertising and marketplace channels. This includes channels like Google and Facebook and Amazon and Walmart. My background specifically has been in e-commerce for now about 10 years or so. I got started in digital marketing right out of film school and worked in channel and ads management for a number of years, leading up to joining originally the BigCommerce team back in this past November, and now the Feedonomics team as of February. And my team specifically is the Omnichannel Partnerships team, and we oversee the channel partner relationships between these different channels that I mentioned earlier, but also partnerships with merchants and tech partners and agencies to be able to support the omnichannel narrative and helping merchants succeed across these different channels. And
you're partnering with BigCommerce right now in this, right?
Yes, absolutely. So Feedonomics was acquired by BigCommerce about a couple of years ago. So it's a wholly owned subsidiary. And there's what we kind of say is that Feedonomics is BigCommerce's platform agnostic omni-channel center for excellence.
Okay. All right. And thank you, Tony. And Sunny?
Yeah, thank you for having me. My name is Sunny Gill, just based outside of Toronto, Canada. I've spent the first 6 years of my career in sales and consulting around SaaS, and more recently pivoted to the e-commerce space, probably for the last 4 years. Originally, I was at an e-commerce integration company where we integrated e-commerce platforms into 3PLs, ERPs, IMS, WMS, et cetera, et cetera. And more recently, I'm at a company called Rewind as a partnership manager. So Rewind is a backup and restoring solution for e-commerce platforms, but also developer platforms like Jira, Confluence, Trello, things like Bitbucket, GitHub, QuickBooks. And we really take snapshots of individual user level data and allow you to restore it as you need in case any of the things go wrong that I'm sure we'll talk about in the podcast. But thank you for having me.
All right. Thank you. All right. Well, yeah, this is a pretty laid back thing. I'm not going to sit here and ping a bunch of questions at you. So I guess we could kind of get started with you, Sunny. So explain a little bit more about, Rewind and how it works within the e-commerce space. Like why would a business need to contact Rewind? What's the service that it would provide?
Yeah, absolutely. So many merchants don't know that most platforms operate on what's called the shared responsibility model. So platforms like BigCommerce and Shopify, they only back up platform level data. They don't actually back up store level data. So, if there's an issue with the e-commerce store, they won't actually be able to help you out. So what we do is mitigate the risk to e-commerce merchants of store downtime. So you're able to safeguard your store, quickly recover from simple or complex issues. And really installing Rewind really eliminates the need for any sort of worrying about manual CSV uploads as we automatically back up information. And, if anything does occur, any situations occur, we can quickly and easily restore your data as well. And we work with all sorts of e-commerce clients. So it doesn't really matter about orders or anything like that. It's really about the data that you have in your store. So if there's heavy coding, if there's a lot of theme work, blogs, any other marketing material or with SEO implications, we restore all of that and back up all of that data as well.
Okay, so like if my store were to go down, Rewind, I would able to bring it back up incomplete. I mean, I don't have to have anything else. You have it all.
Yeah, exactly. So what we do is we'll, again, like I said, we'll take snapshots of the data that you that changes. So if you do change your themes or your blogs or pages or any code, we'll take snapshots and you'll be able to rewind it back in time to when it was working correctly. So say, a rogue CSV upload, like I mentioned, or some sort of human error, or if you have multiple developers pushing code together at the same time, which I'm sure how do you
Oh, no, that never happened.
Yeah. Or if your merchant or partner changes their mind on something that's going on in the store as well, you're able to rewind it to a point in time that it was working correctly. And you can do individual item restores. So if you did just wanted to, we had a funny story, not really a funny story, it's kind of a funny story now, but one of our partners let me know that one of his merchants hired his daughter's friend to be their social media manager.
Oh, no.
And ended up deleting all of their blogs over the past 2 years, which thank you, Tony, which actually had obviously a lot of SEO implications as well, but they had Rewind installed, right? They had Rewind installed. So they were able to go back in time and actually just restore all those blogs. But I don't know what happened to the social media manager. I'm not sure if she was fired at all or just sticks to Instagram and Twitter now. But yeah, things like that. Things can happen. Human errors happen. And that's what we're here to really solve.
Okay. All right. So you kind of talked about some of the mistakes that people make. That was a big one.
Yes.
What about security? Because I mean, I know like security is a really big thing now for most people. So how does Rewind protect the data that it is backing up?
Yeah, really good question. I think we're built on a security first model. So we're experts in data backups. Security is not just a feature of ours, and we're happy to like share our security practices as well. We have a full security portal which covers everything that we do, and we're able to store and host data where you are. So we have merchants in Europe where we can store data. We have merchants in North America we can store data, and Australia as well. We are CCPA compliant, GDPR compliant, SOC 2, Type 2 compliant, PAPETA compliant. We have full documentation of all reports that we run as well. We log all of our product security, our network diagrams, security white papers, data, like all sorts of security. I could talk for days about what we have, but we have a security portal that covers it. And, we have our Rewind applications and our backups and all of our application grades on that security portal as well. And we're all A+ in all those grades. So we do really take security very seriously.
Okay. I believe that Ram, our CEO, is now ready. So we're going to go ahead and have him join in. And then Tony, I have a question for you.
Oh.
Okay.
Hello.
All right. Well, I think, Ram might have a little bit of a delay there on his video. But Tony, we were just talking about security. So one of the questions that I had about Feedonomics is, as you guys are pulling things from, say BigCommerce, let's just use BigCommerce as the platform, and putting them into others, how are you securing the data? How can people feel that the data that is being moved to other different channels is actually secure and not going to be taken by somebody?
Sure, of course. So, I think that speaks to the technology that we have. They essentially have their own account, and then they have their own databases that are stored within the Feedonomics platform. So we're acting as a middleware with multiple security levels to protect the data on the internal aspect, which is then, once it's homogenized and optimized, is then transferred to these different channels. The security of that is of the utmost concern. So we follow all best practices when it comes to security, understanding how to secure user information, but also how do we secure things like order information and product data that the merchants are sending through our platform.
Okay. And so let's kind of move more into Feedonomics. Why don't you tell me a little bit more about some of the services that you guys could provide for merchants?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's primarily around feed management and product data optimization. So merchants today, they need to be able to list and advertise and market their products across a number of different channels online. This includes search, social, marketplaces, and Feedonomics is the engine that powers that, right? It is a middleware that ingests product data from a disparate array of sources, right? It could be where the e-commerce owner has their data living in their e-commerce store. It could be in other areas like a PIM or an ERP. We ingest that data and we homogenize it to ensure that the data itself is clean and concise as far as the best practices that need to be followed on a general channel basis. But then each channel has its own requirements. So a Google is going to want different data than Facebook, is going to want different data than Amazon, is going to want different data than a Walmart. So the big part of that is our AI and our managed services to massage and optimize that data on a per channel basis. So we're driving towards increased merchant sales. As we increase the relevancy and of the optimized product data, it increases the opportunity for products on, let's say, Google to appear more readily in the search results, or Amazon when somebody's searching on Amazon. The other half of that, though, is also in order management. So Feedonomics also acts as a middleware for orders being placed on 3P marketplaces and passing that data back into merchant-owned systems, whether that's their e-commerce platform or it could be, a bypass into their ERP or, PIM or wherever it needs to go. This can be done directly through APIs to the e-commerce platforms, but also can be done through REST API and SFTP uploads.
Okay, so someone doesn't necessarily have to use the e-commerce platform as the hub. Essentially, they could. Okay, it looks like we lost.
Getting a little bit of feedback there, but we lost somebody. That's okay. Yeah, so it's essentially wherever the source of truth of data is. So again, Feedonomics is not trying to be a PIM. It's not trying to be the source of data. The source of data can be the e-commerce platform or other parts of the merchant-owned systems that can house product data, and we're the middleware that's ingesting that and optimizing it on the in-between.
Okay. And so let's start to kind of pick them apart, because you were talking about how Google has its own things that it needs, and Amazon has its own, and things like that. How does Feedonomics differentiate those? I mean, is it automatically done for the consumer or for the merchant, or do they have to have separate feeds? Because like right now, I will run feeds separately for merchants. So I might have to set up a feed for Google. I might have to set up a feed for Facebook, and then I have to set up a feed for Walmart. Are you essentially doing that automatically now for the merchant, or they still have to set up these feeds and run them manually?
So we're doing it partially through AI and partially through a fully managed service. That's one of the big benefits to leveraging Feedonomics. We have a team of enterprise data feed managers that are essentially managing and optimizing this data on behalf of the merchant and ensuring that it meets the best practices on a per channel basis, right? And going back to like the questions around a Google versus an Amazon, Google is an intent-driven engine. So you want to be able to hyper-optimize for keyword density on core product attributes, like your product titles, your descriptions, and other more obscure attributes that Google deploys, such as product type, for example. Whereas a platform like Facebook doesn't necessarily require as much intent-driven data, and you're able to optimize the data, the attributes differently to also like meet certain criteria, right? Because there are character limits, there are a number of like words allotted between a different product title or description, let's say. And then Amazon also, like Amazon's also somewhat of an intent-driven engine. So you want to have a tremendous amount of data on a per product attribute basis to be able to drive more relevance on that product detail itself. The key though is really taking raw data as it comes from those sources of truth, transforming it so that it follows best practices as a whole, right? So ensuring that things like your GTINs are aligned correctly. They don't, there's no negative space. The GTINs follow the correct format, let's say. That'd be a good example of the piece of product data that comes in that's not always optimized, or when it gets from the source of truth, it's not in the right way, right? It can be vastly, unoptimized at that point.
Oh, I've seen people
So really,
make up tins.
like completely out of the blue, right? So it's like, oh, we're just going to put some numbers in here and just assume that it works.
Yeah.
No, it follows a standard, attribute process. So again, through the homogenization of that data and then transformation, we're able to, disperse across all these different channels. The major AI component comes with product categorization, which is a huge component to all channels. So we have our Feed AI that looks at specifically Google product category, and it can automatically assign Google product category at a very high success rate, on average, probably around 98% or even higher, based on where a product needs to fit. So, for example, if a short sleeve shirt is being brought into the Feedonomics platform and sent out to Google, Google might think that because there's the word short in it, that it will be in the shorts category, which then kind of messes up where it should appear in the search results or even in the shopping results online. Our AI is ensuring that it fits into the proper category, so it improves the relevance and ensures that when people are searching, that's falling into the correct category and it appears more often within the results.
Okay. Now, is it like a two-way? So like when something happens on, say, Facebook, it is purchased, then the data goes back to the source to let it know. I mean, so like does it update inventory? Is it straight just sending information to those, to Facebook and Google and all them?
Yeah, so for ads channels, it's a one way. It would be sending the data out to these various different channels. For where the two-way street comes in is for marketplace and order management. So being able to automatically sync orders between 3P marketplaces, sync inventory levels, and get that fulfillment data back out to the various different channels, like your Amazons, your Walmarts, your eBays of the world.
Okay. Yeah, because I was like, I'm trying to think. I'm like, well, do people have to rewind their Facebook marketplaces?
Never know. You never know. We're always looking at new platforms.
I mean, to speak on, data backup. I mean, if a website's going down, that is a terrible detriment to channel management, because once the website goes down, it can very easily be, it'll turn off all of their marketing campaigns.
Yep.
Google will shut down. Sometimes Google will even suspend their Merchant Center accounts in some cases if a site is down or there's an issue with the product data being passed. And if we're losing product data or even we're losing order data, that's even worse, because then for the merchant, obviously that's a horrible detriment. But then to the channels, there's not a consistent data flow that's going back and forth.
Yeah, loss of sales, loss of reputation, and worse, down the line. So just trickle down effect.
Yeah, we it's interesting that you say that, because we've had instances where we've had to take a server down to do work on it, so the store's down, and I'll have the merchant calling me going, well, how long is this going to take? Should I take my Google ads down? I don't want Google coming back and looking at me right now. And how long is it going to be? I'm like, work 2 hours. Maybe if it's more than that, I'll let you know. Well, I'm going to take my ads down just in case. Oh, okay. So,
and I would say there's nothing wrong with that. To be,
absolutely.
if you can be proactive in that effort, even better, just to avoid any potential problems that might arise from that.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, there was a story recently as well that it was a merchant that really, I won't get into who it was, but let's just say their big day of sales is hump day. So they had a sale that goes out every Wednesday, and their store, there were some issues with their store. So they ended up pausing their sales campaigns that they would send out, or any sort of ad campaigns, any Klaviyo campaigns as well for email. And they were able to stop those before any implications happened and repivot the sale for Thursday, put out some old inventory, a new sale, and it actually refreshed the customer base, got a lot of good feedback. I'm not sure exact percentages, but they saw a really good increase in the click-through rate and even sales rate as well. So, blessing in disguise, just to be able to proactively see these kind of scenarios and act on those, right?
Right. So in the case of, let's say, the catastrophe and the site's down and they've lost data, how long does it take to get it back up with Rewind?
Really depends on the size of the store. So it could take an hour to 4 to 5 hours, maybe a day. Like we've had a store that went down. It was about 11,000 SKUs. It took us a few hours, but if it was manual, it would have taken 110 days. Like examples like that. So it's hard to say, but it's a few hours. So it's
Well, yeah,
very, very minimal.
But most platforms, I mean, you can't put that many SKUs in at a time anyway. I think
Exactly.
you're limited to a certain amount of SKUs on a CSV upload. So
yeah, exactly. It's not fun.
no. Well, and not to mention, I mean, it's not just the loss of the products and the data, but you lose your customer base. How do you get that back?
Yeah, the trust. You
And
lose trust.
yeah, because then if you say you were smart enough to export them at one point in time, but now you're calling all those customers and asking them to reapply to your store and set their accounts all up again because your store's wished and washed and and that doesn't look good. So I mean, because we've had it where someone would re-platform, and when you re-platform, you have to set the accounts up again. They don't, because in most cases, customer accounts, their private data does not come over. And so even something like that, you get a loss of customer data. So I couldn't even imagine losing it all and then not being able to bring it back. So now I have a question, because I know digital marketing and I know how the ads and I've done feeds, but if they have customer accounts that are, say, through Facebook or Google or something like that, is that part of Feedonomics too, or is it just product based?
For feeds management, it's just product based, right? The side of like customer or customer data information that is being passed for the primarily only around the order data that goes from a 3P marketplace. I mean, you could even call out to like Google Buy on Google, which is a Google's marketplace solution. But other than that, it's not that we don't necessarily own or hold kind of any kind of data sway over like customer accounts on these particular platforms.
Okay. So it because I know, like, especially if you're looking at, like, say, the European countries right now, a lot of the GDPR and stuff is that you're not allowed to save the customer data unless they give you permission.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's part of a feed and they have permission, then that's under the order management. Correct.
It would be under the order management, and then the GDPR would be governing based on the merchant's ownership of customer data, right? So since we don't own the customer data, it's encrypted and secured data. Gotcha. The data itself is then covered under GDPR or even CCPA, like, for example, that would be covered by the merchant, and then a request for removal, right? A request for removal of personal and PII would have to go directly to a merchant in that case.
Okay, so that it wouldn't have anything to do with Feedonomics at that point. So
no, not at that point. No, we don't govern over that particular.
Okay. So we were talking about omni-channel. So I know that there's a lot of buzzwords out there. So what's the difference between omni-channel, multi-channel, and single channel?
Sure. So I would say that the best way to describe this would be in like a maturity scale for a merchant, right? Mm-hmm. A single channel would probably be something like your D2C website, right? It'd be you're only selling through your D2C. Maybe you're only going through organic traffic, maybe using email or SMS or other types of channels that are non-digital marketing in nature. That could be what could be considered single channel. As we increase in maturity level, we'll have merchants that are, maybe growing in GMV after, launching and gearing up with organic traffic. They can start looking to ads channels. Like most will put most of their budget towards a Google, for example, to start out, and Meta. These are the two like major channels that are for listings and ads management. And maybe one marketplace channel, likely an Amazon in that case, right? And, in the example for BigCommerce, let's say, there are native apps and integrations that BigCommerce has built that generate for the smaller multi-channel merchant the necessary feeds and also some order management that goes back and forth between the BigCommerce stores, specifically into those channels. Where you're getting to the range of omni-channels when you're really starting to expose a merchant to everything that is a driving factor for revenue for their business. This could be from a digital perspective, all of their ads channels, all of their marketplace channels, and even looking to things like, when we think about omni-channel, we would think in-store or buy online, pick up, buy online, pick up in store, brick and mortar. You could include, again, email, SMS, and other like non-digital marketing potential, at least in the scope of like what digital marketing I'm considering would be as a channels, right? So a merchant would grow based on scale, right? They're scaling up from being a small like launch perspective, like they've just launched their website, to now they're generating GMV, and they've kind of started to develop some brand awareness and have a strong customer base, and can start branching out and building a budget on different channels for advertising. Because even Amazon, you can do advertising on Amazon, for example. And then when you get to a greater scale, you're going to want it to look to really diversify so that you have enough traffic coming into your website, or at least you're doing enough sales off of your website through checkout solutions that you can sustain your business for the foreseeable future.
Okay. So say it's a smaller company, and I'm not going to say like mom and pop size, but smaller. And they do advertising on Google. So they have Google ads, Google display ads, and they sell on Amazon. Would they be someone that would look at omni-channel, or are they still in the growth period?
They're in I would consider that in the multi-channel bucket. They haven't really explored other major 3P marketplaces, Target Plus, Macy's, even Meta's or Facebook and Instagram checkout, for example. Maybe they haven't explored those avenues. The case again for a BigCommerce store, they also might be using a lot of the native tools that BigCommerce has built, or BigCommerce has built alongside partners to handle all of that for them, and aren't yet, within the fit for, let's say, a Feedonomics, which is more towards a mid-market to enterprise grade solution for, feeds and channel management. As they grow and they're looking to expand upon that, they of course wanted then to start to segue into that omni-channel narrative, right? They want to start looking at alternative channels, even multi-regional channels, right? So you can think about like if they're just selling with the United States, but also maybe want to start selling within Canada or overseas. There's Hudson's Bay out of Canada, for example, is another marketplace to be able to connect to. There's also all the Miracle marketplaces, right? So this is an operator that allows, well, for lack of a better word, like the big box retailers to be able to build their marketplace solutions on top of. So these would be like your Saks and your Kohl's. And that would also be something like somebody going from the maturity level of a multi-channel merchant to an omni-channel merchant wants to consider, so they can get their products in front of the diverse array of shoppers and the way that people shop. Because especially ever since COVID, shopping has changed forever, right? And in my opinion, still, that shopping still is primarily occurring online. Quote me if I'm wrong. I'm sure numbers might say different. Who knows? But frankly, shopper behavior is completely different.
Yeah.
I can see it from my behavior, from my wife's behavior.
Oh, yeah.
Almost all shopping occurs online in my house. That's for sure.
I rarely go to the grocery store anymore.
See, that is the one thing I will maintain. I
was going to say the same thing, Tony.
Grocery store.
I gotta see the steak. No. I gotta see them cut the steak.
Oh,
I gotta see that.
That's the only time I'll go is if I need meats and vegetables.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
all my other basics, I'm like, I don't care if you pick up a certain carton of milk. I'm like,
Long before I was ever in digital marketing, I came from the restaurant and hospitality business. So my parents owned and operated restaurants on Long Island and in Atlantic City and in Las Vegas. And I was part of that ecosystem for a very long time. So I was originally a chef and then moved on to working within the restaurant industry up until being a manager. So I think like that's the part of me that needs to still go to the grocery store. I need to be able to look at the cuts of meat. I need to be able to go and say, like, if I want a duck breast, then I'm going to go get a duck breast. So I'm not one to, go on and shop online. And I'm still like, what's Instacart? I don't get that. I have no idea. Don't even ask me.
Yeah. But the thing is too, like think like the Walmarts and, even Amazon, they have their own grocery aspect now.
Yep.
Yes.
So it's like, on certain given days, I might order from my local grocery store and they don't have XYZ. So I turn around to Amazon and I get it from Amazon. So, and so and if someone like even grocery then would be considered omni-channel in some cases, right?
Absolutely. Kroger is a channel that is supported by Feedonomics. Good example there. Grocery can be very much considered for the right product types, and the scope would be very much an omni-channel solution. they need to find the right connectors to be able to get their products on the shelves. Grocery is a very difficult territory, right? Because that is all about shelf space and owning shelf space. Even an online shelf space is a difficult avenue to tackle. But it certainly can be considered part of the omnichannel narrative.
Are there any industries that Feedonomics doesn't work with? Like, because like I know some platforms, they won't work with firearms or things like that. Is there anything that keeps, any agency that keeps Feedonomics from working with them?
There are high risk categories like firearms and like, let's say, CBD products and everything like that. But there has been some recent changes. Google just recently announced support for CBD and CBD related products in California, I think in Colorado. So there's an opportunity for those merchants to be able to begin working with a solution like Feedonomics. There are channels that we support that are specifically in the ammunition firearms space. They're definitely high risk and more difficult to work with. We also work with non-merchant channels such as the car market. Working with dealerships, being able to sell like with auto ads, which are now also becoming more prevalent.
Right.
And I think also as like an industry that saw a tremendous change from COVID. We're starting to see like the auto industry come back to life a little bit, and that's also become but that's a smaller part, right? And there's other like travel and hospitality. That's also a part of because Feedonomics isn't just about product data, right? We are really looking to connect the world's data sources together, right? And be that true middleware, so we can support not just specifically to like an e-commerce business, potentially like hotel listings or bookings like that as well.
Okay. And obviously, Sunny, with Rewind, you're not going to have any industries that you don't work with, because you're going to work with the platforms, and the platforms are going to restrict the industries, right?
Exactly. And customers vary. Like I mentioned earlier, it's, whether it's a heavy code intensive, low order, very, very much relying on, say, marketing, blogs, anything like that. If they're going through seasonal changes, if they're migrating platforms, if they have, in the automotive industry, we have a few clients that just have books and books of product SKUs. They just have a lot of products, product images, product descriptions. So we can really cover a lot of wide bases. So we're very agnostic.
Okay. Well, and you had talked about it, and I know, it's kind of outside of the realm of e-commerce, but really kind of not either. It's on the inner workings, is being able to back up the things like Jira and someone's QuickBooks.
Exactly.
So,
yeah, we're always looking at new platforms. So I think I mentioned Jira, Confluence, Trello, Bitbucket, GitHub, QuickBooks. We're actually launching Asana, HubSpot, and Slack as well. And we're exploring. Yeah, so that was an interesting one. It was based on customer feedback, and we're actually thinking now. We're always so we'd love feedback from the audience as well of what we should back up next. And I know we're partners, Honey, as well. So what are the platforms that you're working on? We always like to lean on our partners for suggestions as well, whether it's Klaviyo down the line or like ShipStation. What is the ecosystem using? Where is it heading? And how can we help support that ecosystem as well?
ShipStation would be a really good one.
Yeah, there was some conversations around
that. We've had issues where we've lost data. And luckily we were smart enough to, CSV it before. But you still have that downtime of trying to get everything back. And ShipStation's a beast.
Yes, it really is. It really is.
So, okay. So if you're talking about, I'm going back to omnichannel, because I'm trying to think like strategy wise. What is a merchant's strategy? What is their digital strategy if they're looking at omnichannel?
So I think they need to think of it in two ways. They need to think of it from an ads channels perspective, and they need to look at it from a marketplaces channels perspective, right? Their strategy needs to be about defining a plan for where they want to list and why they want to list in those channels, the pros and cons of each channel specifically, and ensuring that they have the right connectors and the right back-end support to be able to, for example, support the volume of traffic that could make it to their website from, let's say, a Google or a Facebook, or the volume of orders that they would have to support from a 3P marketplace like an Amazon or an eBay. They need to be able to set aside budget too.
Right. When you say back-end support, what do you mean by that?
So like other merchant-owned systems, if they have, make sure they have the right order management system set up in their backend, make sure that they have their own fulfillment operations. Fulfillment operations can actually handle the load. And they also need to also consider like other opportunities that maybe offset things like fulfillment, like, FBA by Amazon. And, like recently BigCommerce partnered with Buy with Prime to be able to support Buy with Prime products on your D2C website. So now BigCommerce merchants can effectively list their products with the Buy with Prime badge and have a entire, almost, the entire FBA fulfillment side of Amazon occur on their BigCommerce website. So it's a game changer for that. So they really need to start planning out the right channels. And one of the things that we provide at Feedonomics is complimentary omnichannel consultations. So we actually work with merchants one-on-one and kind of help them guide, Sherpa them along in those solutions and what might work for them, what might not work for them based on, their omnichannel maturity and also what they're doing now versus what they want to be doing. And being able to get them access to unique programs that aren't necessarily available otherwise, right? For example, like Target Plus is a notoriously closed marketplace, but Feedonomics partnered very closely with Target Plus to be able to support that as one of the new marketplace channels available. Macy's is another example, and just recently launched support for TikTok in the US as a closed beta for their checkout solution. Again, similar to checkout, like let's say for Facebook and Instagram, it's global availability in the UK, but now coming to a closed beta opportunity within Feedonomics.
Yeah, I wonder how many companies are actually working with TikTok, considering that US is going to ban it.
Yeah, we'll see. The day that I'll say this, the day that I saw all those articles that they're going to ban it is the very next day they saw the articles that say that'll never happen. But I can tell you that I was at an event back in New York City last year with one of the omnichannel partners, and the talk of the town was TikTok. I mean, if there was not a single session that didn't talk about TikTok, then I don't know if I was at the right show. It is. I mean, I'm sure. I don't know if anybody. You guys probably wind up in a TikTok hole every once in a while, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's just tremendous opportunity there to grab shopper attention, and I think they just recently hit 150 million users in the US too. So like you're talking about a user base with massive buying potential.
Yep.
Yeah, I just saw on our marketing channel, and I wanted to pull it up just to make sure I was quoting it correctly. But QuickBooks, one of our solutions, one of our platforms that we back up, actually did a TikTok ad, and we posted in our marketing channel. So it's it's definitely definitely are still around.
I worked with a car insurance company that had influencers, and the influencers did the ads on TikTok, and that's kind of honestly that's where I started kind of watching TikTok, because I had to really quickly learn all the algorithms, which are not easy, by the way.
I'm sure.
Very closed about how they use those.
Right.
I mean, even to the sense that if you talk to their reps, even their reps really can't explain it. It's that closeted. But yeah, so I was just like, I'm just wondering, like, how many companies out there are actually starting to move more towards TikTok, because that honestly is where the next generation is.
Yeah.
I mean, my generation, we still buy from Facebook, but like my daughter just turned 29. She looks at Facebook for family only. She's like, I'm
on
not
her birthday, maybe.
Yeah. She's like, I posted a picture of her on there, and I'm like, hey, just to let you know, I put a picture on there and I tagged you. She's like, oh, okay, I'll go get on. Yeah. Otherwise, it's like sitting there listening to like reel after reel of TikTok. And then
that's right.
Once I started getting on it, like I'll log in every once in a while and I'll be like, 29 things that she sent me from TikTok. I'm like, oh my God. But it is funny because from just within the course of a year, it went from like lots of reels to I'm seeing a lot more ads now.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I'd say almost every other, if not every third thing I flip through is an ad of some sort, right? And
Yep.
it's typically a product ad. It's not,
Yeah.
there's some stuff like, apps and games and things along those lines. But I often see, fun gadgets, demonstrable
Yep.
products, apparel and accessories. I mean, huge opportunities for merchants to be able to take advantage of that. And it's an emerging channel, though, right?
Yep.
So
Yeah.
I have to see what happens.
Yeah, I was going to say similar on Instagram as well. That's one platform that I use. And there's actually a call to action on a lot of those ads too.
Yeah.
So you can shop now or buy now. So
That's right.
I'm sure the next generation that's the apps that they're spending the most time on. There's data driven. There's data on that. So then that's where they're buying now.
I know. My ex-husband, he had a teenage son, and I guess he's still teenage. He's 18. His big thing was Snapchat.
Huge for millennial and Gen Z shoppers.
Oh my
it actually is one of the highest buying powers. Out of all the social media platforms, one of the highest buying powers, because of like the hyper targeted nature of those types of shoppers. Right?
Now, is that something that Feed
impressionable? So we do support Snapchat as an advertising channel. BigCommerce also supports a native app for Snapchat advertising.
Okay.
All the major social media channel search and marketplaces are all within the wheelhouse of Feedonomics. And also some of the native apps to BigCommerce as well. And a lot of these programs are doing unique things. Meta's doing something unique with a program called Jobs Ads, where it's helping shoppers in their shopper journey, whether it's directing users towards different opportunities to shop online or shop directly in the store. Direct on the e-commerce platform. So, whether it's a checkout solution or in-store checkout itself.
So people can either check out in Facebook or they can check out in the e-commerce?
Yeah, and essentially Meta's working towards directing shoppers in which direction best fits their,
Meta.
Yeah, so based on their shopper behavior, what do you think they're going to check out most likely on? So they're going to deliver ads in a different way. But it's interesting, my wife, for example, she's a marketplace shopper. There are Amazon boxes always. There's always Amazon boxes in my house. I think that's the normal household nowadays.
I think I just heard one get dropped off, actually.
Yeah, it's like, please stop. But she has also mastered Google Shopping. She is the ultimate window shopper. She knows how to compare products from multiple different merchants and retailers, and that's where the prevalence of search is so important still, because so many people start and potentially even end their journey on search to be able to find products online, whether that's on an ads marketplace or an ads channel or marketplace. But again, I think that kind of speaks to why merchants need to be considering omnichannel, because shoppers shop in so many different ways, and if you're not there, then you're nowhere.
Oh yeah, even if I'm looking for a bigger ticket item, I'll go look at Google, and then I'll go to Amazon, and then I'll go to Best Buy, and I look at all of those, and who's giving me the most details. So by the time I've looked at all those, I know everything there is to know about that product. And then
That's
I go
right.
find the person that's going to give me the best price, the fastest delivery, and the best guarantees.
Couldn't agree more.
That's right. And you got to also take into account local availability and local delivery, where Google has local inventory ads. Just before we kicked off the show, we were talking about air conditioners, and my wife found the air conditioner that we needed, and it was at Home Depot, and she knew to go right up the road up to Home Depot. It was available in store, and Google is telling her that it's available in the store, and there's stock, like how many units are available in the store. Turned out that there were no units available. I think somebody had literally just walked away with that last box. So, but that's okay, because then it also says early delivery by XYZ date, which are new annotations that Google actually introduced pretty recently. Google's really advanced the way that people shop online, because they've delivered such an interesting shopping experience, and that's intent driven. People know what they want, they search for it, and they get what they're looking for. But they're also to find it the way they want to find it: fast and free delivery, or even pick up, buy now and pick up in store.
Well, it's like when I was looking for a refrigerator, my biggest thing was who's going to take the other one away. That that was literally how I decided to make the choice, So I was like, okay, who's
Right.
who, you come deliver it? Who's taking it away? Because I'm not doing it. So, and thing is if I remember, I actually Googled that. So who can I buy a refrigerator from? And they take the old one. So, and that just, that just goes to show you is that people are like literally deep diving that into it. And the better that merchants have that kind of information going to these, the Googles, the Walmarts, the Amazons, the better it's going to be for them and their sales.
Absolutely, 100%.
Because like I said, I went to 3 different places and the person that gave me the most information is actually the one I went with. I'm like, okay, they actually know what they're talking about. So
absolutely. And product data is fueling this. It is the lifeblood of all of this. So, I mean, having that Feedonomics is the core component that like homogenizes. Like we're proud to be able to be that middleware that does all that work. I have a visitor. I apologize.
That's fine. We kind of
can't help you, buddy. You got to go. There's actually a timer on the stove. He wasn't supposed to bother me, but this is now occupational hazard in the world we live in, right?
Yes,
it's 100% remote.
Yep.
I'm bound to have a child coming in here and asking me for something, and I'm going to say, go ask Alexa for it. Don't ask me. And then I'm going to have 1,000 Amazon packages on my front door, and then I got to 5,000 SpongeBob ice pops.
That's too funny.
It was funny. I think I was actually watching a TikTok, and it was someone where they got a package and they didn't order it. And here comes their like little 5-year-old. Oh, my package is here because they'd ordered on the website.
That's awesome.
My kids are too smart. That's the thing. Like even now, like kids young as my 6 and 4-year-old are starting to figure this out. Shopping is becoming incredibly intuitive. They can do it with on Amazon. They can do it with their Alexa device. They can do it. They can order products on the TV if they wanted to at some point, and that's just a testament to how fast I think we're advancing in the way that shopping channels are addressing the needs of every shopper, even if when they shouldn't be purchasing anything.
Yeah, instead of crying in the store for the toy, they can just order it themselves.
Right.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Those days are gone.
We hold a small internal game here at Feedonomics where we have a numbers guessing game, and it's every Wednesday, and somebody wins a $10 gift card. And immediately, my kid asked me, "What are you going to buy me?" And I was like, "Okay." And I'm like,
"Yeah,
a book."
I'll find. I don't know. A stick. It's it's only $10. It's a stick of gum. Nowadays.
Right.
What's that going to get you now?
All right. Well, I think we're getting close to time, so want to wrap it up with kind of some end questions. So, for you, Sunny, on Rewind, do you have advice for e-commerce businesses that maybe are just starting out? In terms of how to prioritize their data backup and recovery as part of their strategy?
Yeah, I think you really, number one, you need to start it as early as possible in the process, just because it should be at the forefront. It's we sit in the back end and we do the work behind the scenes, but it's really is something that you need to prioritize because it is, I don't hesitate I hate this example of insurance, but I don't hesitate to have insurance for my car, my house, or any of my other possessions. But, I can assure you that a big commerce store is worth all of those put together for me. And that's a livelihood and the lifeblood of their, what they're driving, what they're building towards. So, I think it just makes sense to back up that data. And if you're in the development phase and you're working with great partners who are suggesting Rewind as a non-negotiable in their tech stack, that's something that you should really take into account as well. And you can just read our reviews. We're on the big commerce app store. I think we're at 500 5-star reviews, and we work with a number of great partners like yourself too. So I think that's really just getting it as early as possible at least evaluating it as early as possible in the development phase.
Yeah, well, I know it saved us a couple times. We have a couple customers that have it. So
there you go.
You go in, you're working on it, the customer thinks they know better, and they go make a change.
Oh, I can code.
Easy, right?
Right. Anybody can do it.
And Tony, we already kind of talked about the strategy for that. So let's kind of instead of talking about strategy, where do you see the future of omnichannel going?
I think right now, I think we tapped into it. I think social commerce is what I'm seeing the fastest growth in omni-channel selling and online. I think TikTok, although maybe it'll be banned, maybe it won't, I think is maybe the fastest growing social commerce platform on the planet. Snapchat being able to target a very distinct group of individuals that have a tremendous buying power. Social commerce is really where it's at. But I think ultimately what merchants need to do is they need to, as they think about the maturity levels that I spoke about, they need to be able to justify what channels they're going to be leveraging. And my advice would be to look at the highest volume channels first and then go from there, right? So you're looking towards the channels that are going to generate the most traffic directly back to your D2C website, or where you're going to see the most shopper behavior in an online checkout solution. So that's where I would definitely lead to.
Okay. And if we have, listeners, or even, later on, if there's anyone who's interested in getting more information from Feedonomics, where do they go? Would they contact you directly, or do you have somewhere else that they would like them to see? Or?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, they definitely reach out to me directly on LinkedIn. I can support, getting them in touch with, from a merchant perspective, directly with my team, but also even from a partner's perspective with our omnichannel partnerships team, because we are, essentially a marriage between the BigCommerce Partnership Program and the Feedonomics Partnership Program, where we're doing two things. We are union negotiating on behalf of all of these merchants to be able to get them all these wonderful benefits with these different channel partners, but also being able to work with technology and agency and merchant partners to be able to support their omni-channel growth. Get in touch with me on LinkedIn, email me directly, anthony.capitola@feedonomics.com. Probably LinkedIn the best, since it's a long name. But I'm one of very few Tony Capitolas out there, so you should be able to find me pretty readily.
Right. And same question for you, Sunny. If someone's interested about Rewind, where would they go to get the information?
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to say I'm one of many Sunny Gills, so make sure you search Rewind. Make sure you search Rewind in there explicitly. Email, LinkedIn is obviously the best as well.
You come for me, Sunny.
Yeah. I was going to say sunny.gill@rewind.com. You can obviously go to rewind.com as well. We work with a number of great partners, such as Honey from Atmosol as well, who can talk about Rewind as well. And I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but we're on the BigCommerce App Store as well, so you can get all the information you need there, but more than happy to point you in the right direction. So feel free to reach out to me directly anytime.
Okay. All right. Well, is there anything else that you guys would like to add before we wrap it up? No more air conditioning stories or anything.
This
has been great.
This has been an absolute pleasure and absolute joy.
Yeah.
Right.
Had a lot of fun.
I don't want to talk about air conditioners anymore.
You're going to talk about them now, I think.
Yeah.
I feel like that's good.
It's going to be the talk of the town for quite a while.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you both for joining, and it's been a wonderful talk. So have a great day.
Thank you, honey.
Thank you for listening to e-commerce insights presented by Atmosol. We hope you have learned something new or took a nugget of information away to help you as you travel the world of e-commerce. Until next time, keep asking questions, evolving your business, and learn every day.